pulling out onto beautiful Lake Norman. Okay, YouTube, here we are. You guys have been asking me for this video, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this video together for you. I hope you enjoy it. And if you wanna know more about the Denali Canyon GMC that's behind me, please check out some of my other videos as I continue to update and make more content on the GMC Denali. So, let's get to it right here. As you can see to my left, I'm looking at the Kicker 10-inch powered subwoofer enclosure. The Hideaway, 360 watt max power, 180 watt RMS, and the model number is the HS10. And again, I'll post all that in some of the links. You guys can follow along. I want to do something a little different with this video. I'm actually going to show you an unboxing of what's in the box here and the content of the packaging, and we're going to talk you through it. And then I'm going to kind of do a reverse install because I already have one installed on my Denali here. This is another subwoofer that I happen to have, and we'll talk about kind of the reverse install and follow along. Here we go. Okay, here we go. We're looking at the 2023 Denali Canyon by GMC. And if you want to see some of the other upgrades like those rock guards on the side, my painted calipers, the tinted side marker covers, all of that can be found on some of my other videos, so go ahead and tune in and you can check those out. But we're here to talk about that subwoofer. Alright guys, here we are in that back seat. You can look, it's completely stock looking. I've done nothing to alter the plastic. I've done no cutting. As you can see down here, it's just the stock back seat. So let's go ahead and open this, and I'm going to try to hold this camera as I do this, so bear with me. There it is. There's that subwoofer installed, and I'll zoom out and let you see it. A completely stock fit. Nothing needed to be cut. Nothing else needed to be done except for the installation of the amplifier. We're going to talk about what comes in the box. We're going to talk about how easy this was, because it really is probably a 2-wrench project out of 5. And I mean that, I'm just not saying it. And again, you can kind of see what that looks like. And it sounds phenomenal. Guys, let me tell you, for the money you spend to upgrade your Bose system with this subwoofer, it actually just, it really caps off what is a nice sound system in this truck and gives you that little punch you need. Again, it's not going to shake your windows, but this thing really adds a lot to the system. So, we're going to talk about it. We're going to go ahead and do that unboxing right now, and we're going to get right to it. And then we're actually going to come back to the car, and we're going to talk about kind of a reverse installation and show you how I did it. Okay, YouTube, here we go. We're going to start with the unboxing of the Kicker. Again, this is the Hideaway, 360 watt max, 180 RMS, HS10. It is from Kicker, and I'll talk real quick about the one in the truck is the exact same model as this. This is going to go into another car, and so we're going to do an unboxing. I have not opened this yet, and we'll talk about what's in the box, and then we're going to do kind of a reverse install and walk you through that process in the GMC Denali over there, the Canyon. When you open the box, it's kind of your typical stuff. You got your owner's manual for the HS10. The actual amplifier, which is here. And again, you can see what that looks like here. It comes in a nice piece of plastic. Open this up. And here's your Kicker HS10. Now that's the identical model that's in the truck that I just showed you. And here is kind of everything you're going to need for your install. And I'm going to move the box down here so we can see this. And we'll move it to the business side here. There's your HS10. They're going to give you this little package in here. And this is going to be your bass knob for your bass control. Now, I really love this. I love this knob. I use it in my my truck almost daily. Depending on the song you want to play, you can adjust that bass up and low with just the twist of the dial. And this is really, really great. I like it. Easy to install. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the the base level control that goes to this amplifier. The install process is the same regardless of whatever car you're doing this on. So we're going to talk about how to hook this up. It's just a standard plug in the back. So obviously wherever you want to put this in your car, usually it's going to be at the driver's seat so you have access to it. We have to wire it from there. In this case, we're doing an install on my son's charger with the exact same amplifier that I have in the Denali Canyon. So the process is the same. So anyway, the one tool that you're going to need when you're wiring stuff in your car, and the one I use all the time, is kind of this fish tape, flat steel fish tape, and it's a smaller one, so I can use it in the car, and I'll kind of show you how I use this in the car. But this makes running wire a lot easier in your vehicle. Talk about what comes in the wiring harness. They're going to give you everything in this package here, and we'll start with kind of the obvious. This is the harness. And as I take off the twist ties here, we'll talk a little bit about the harness. Some of this is if you guys have never done a stereo system in your life, but you've done other wiring at all, even general wiring of anything, you'll kind of understand what these wires are. It's actually pretty simple. So this is your plug, and when we do the install, and I show you the reverse install, it's pretty simple. This is literally just going to plug into the side of your unit, like so. And these are your wires. Now I'll show you this long red wire. Everybody knows what red generally goes to. That's going to be your positive wire. This is going to go to your battery. And in the same kit they gave you a fuse. Now obviously between the battery and here, you're going to want to wire in that fuse. You should use the fuse. Always use the fuse. It's just better protection. And we'll talk about the fuse and how I wired it in the Canyon when we start to talk about the reverse install. Okay guys, we talked about the inline fuse. This is the inline fuse, and you're going to want to wire this into your power wire. Obviously red is the power wire from that harness we talked about. And I just use a little bit of solder on each connection. Again, make sure your soldering iron's hot. I've already kind of preheated these wires. So put a little bit of solder on your wires. Again, it doesn't have to be a ton, enough to make these connections. And you want to heat these up a little bit, obviously, with your soldering iron beforehand. I've already done that. But you can see I actually got a little too much solder on this one, which will make the connection harder. So we're gonna, okay, clean off your soldering iron. Make sure you got all your excess off of your soldering iron here. Okay, then we're gonna make our connection here. And again, how you decide to connect your wires is kind of up to you. I like to solder mine together. So heat that up again. Get yourself a good connection. Turn off that soldering iron. We're nice and tight here, as you can see. We're already dried. And again, you can make these connections. I'm not here to tell you how to solder or tell you how to connect wires. It's just the way I do it. It works pretty good. It's quick. Okay. So it's already to the touch. And then see if we can get our shrink wrap that we've already put on there. Cover those up. Okay, shrink wrap is on there, and you can take another, I got a little mini torch I use here. Heat that up a little. And I'm good with that connection. Nice and strong. Okay, red wire. Here we go through some of this other wiring. You're going to see what look like speaker wires in here. And again, you're going to have kind of a gray and black, and then a white and black stripe sets of wires. Now, what these go to are your speaker inputs. This is how easy this is to wire this. In the old days, you guys will remember you used to have to use RCA jacks or plug into the back of your stereo system to run an amplifier to get the signal from your head unit back to the subwoofer. They've created this now where you literally can plug or tap into your current speakers that are in your car, any car, and it pulls the signal from the speakers, and that's what gives the input to the subwoofer. This is like, I can't tell you how much time, the ease that this is solved by being able to do it this way versus kind of the old stereo shop ways of 20 years ago. So these literally, you pull these off and they can be spliced right into your speakers, and that is it, guys. That's really all you need to do to install this amplifier. It shouldn't be something that's scary. It shouldn't be something you don't think you can do, because anybody can do it. All right, guys, here's me just tapping these in, and this is simple. You put this on this end of the wire, and you're gonna screw this here, and it's gonna create the connection between that speaker wire and then the ones from the subwoofer that I've wired in. Make sure those are nice and tight. That's all there is to it. You got one done, just do the other one. Again, we got the red. We talked about the red here. I'm gonna pull everything apart. Talked about the two speaker wires. We've talked about the fuse. So this one, black, we all know what that is. Black is always ground. Good ground spot. Okay, now we're just connecting the negative battery terminal to the negative side of the battery. And you can use any ground in your car. The reason I'm using the battery ground right now is only because the battery's in the trunk and that's where the subwoofer's going. But on the Denali, you can find a good ground location in your car, and you can attach it to that point. Guys, we're still talking about the wiring. The last wire here is your blue wire. And this is going to be kind of your wire that is wired into a powered source within your vehicle. So when you turn the ignition on, something that is powered, that will now activate and send a message to the amplifier to turn on and turn off when the power comes on and off in the car. Now I will tell you, this system supposedly has a way to do the input, basically tell the amplifier when it's on, when these two speaker wires get a signal from the speaker, so when the car is running, which you could bypass the blue wire. I didn't do that, I used the blue wire, but I've been told and through the directions that you don't need to do that. That even makes this even that much simpler to install. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on the reverse installation. But that's it, guys, for the wiring. The other stuff that comes in the box, this is your extra fuse for your inline fuse. This was your base control. We talked about that. And here are your brackets for the amplifier. I'm not going to pull these out right now, but we'll talk about them on the reverse install. That's it, guys. That is the entire kit. Everything you need to do to put this amplifier in your car. And let me tell you, if we want to talk about what it's done on this vehicle, and I'm not a stereo guy, I'm not a professional YouTuber, I'm some guy in his garage that was able to put this in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's a 2-inch out of 5-inch project. I've been super happy with the kicker. I purchased my kicker through Crutchfield. I have no affiliation with Crutchfield. I'm not marketing their stuff. But I will tell you, Crutchfield's customer service, should you run into a problem, is bar none the best in the country as far as I'm concerned. You can literally make a phone call, and with a minute or two, you'll be in touch with one of their tech people, and their tech people can walk you through any problems you might have with this installation. Their prices are generally maybe a tad higher than you can find it elsewhere, but sometimes that additional help is well worth the $10 to $20 extra you may spend through Crutchfield. So I'm not plugging Crutchfield for any other reason other than to tell you guys, if you're a little bit intimidated by this kind of stuff, spend the extra $10 to $20 through Crutchfield and get that support you need should you run into a problem. So I'm gonna again move over to the car, and we're gonna start the deconstruction, literally the deconstruction of the car, to show you kind of how I put the system in my car and how that went. And we'll talk about how easy it was and any drawbacks that you may encounter during the installation. But again, you guys were asking for this video, so I thought I'd show it to you. And just remember, I have another video on all the modifications to the GMC behind you. Please click on that video if you'd like to see any other videos with those modifications, how I did them or why I did them. I'd be happy to make the videos for you guys. Please hit the subscribe button, guys. This is the reason I'm able to bring some of this content to you, and this is real content. I'm not being paid. I'm not a huge YouTuber. I don't have 1 million subscribers yet, but you're gonna help me get there. So again, let's build this channel together. I'm a normal guy that lives in North Carolina. They call me the most interesting man in North Carolina. I'm gonna talk about these projects. I'm gonna talk about all kinds of different things. Guns, I have some gun videos already up on my platform. That's my other passion. And modifications to motorcycles, cars, and boats. So here we go. I'll bring you over to the car next, and we'll show you that reverse installation. Thank you. Okay, we're taking a look at the engine bay, and we're going to take a look at the positive wiring to the battery. I use the terminal to the right side of my battery on the Denali here, and I'll zoom in. You can see I tapped right into the positive side of the terminal there, and if you follow that up, you'll see the fuse. I've uncovered the fuse here. That's the inline fuse that we've talked about that comes with the wiring harness. And as you follow that up, what I've done is there's a bunch of push pins that run along this channel all the way across. And so what I've done is I pulled those push pins out and just lifted up that channel a little bit and ran that positive wire through that channel. And I've used some cover here, some black cover, just so the job looks nicer inside the engine bay. But again, I ran that all the way across. And then through here, you'll see that more of that covering down through there. Excuse me, wrong covering, but you get the idea. It's tucked away in here, and then you've got to go through your firewall. There are some rubber grommets on your firewall. If you look up underneath your steering wheel, underneath the dash, you either can punch a small hole in or look for a hole through some of the rubber, and then run your positive wire through that. And we'll talk about the rest of the harness inside the vehicle. But as you can see, pretty easy. Going from the positive terminal across this channel, remove the push pins through here, choose your best location to run your positive wire through that firewall. I used an already existing grommet, and I actually just punched a hole through that rubber grommet so it's nice and tight around that wire. Ran the wire through the firewall and into the cab of the car. All right, we're looking in the cab of the car. We're kind of looking under the firewall here. You can see the bass boost knob here, and really all that is it's got two small screws, and those screws go on each side of that. You can mount it right up underneath there, and that will control your... So to get to the rest of the wiring and to see the channels, you are going to need to remove the plastic around the channel here, and I'll kind of show you exactly how I accomplished that. Let's set the tripod here. And I'm going to try to hold the camera and give you a better view. And they're just pop clips. Okay? So you're going to pop this channel up. And again, I'm using one hand, so bear with me. I need to get myself a cameraman. But anyway, this is popped in over here too. It's always a good idea too, you can move your seat back. And I'll set this here to show you guys. Okay. And that's the final removal of this piece. You can set it aside. Your little kick panel here. And now you can see some of the wiring underneath here, and you can see this channel that I've used here to run my wiring. You're going to see some different wires in here, and the main wire you're going to see is this goes to your bass knob, and it just plugs into the back. Okay, and then you're going to see up here in your harness, and I'm going to try to get up in here. Inside that harness, you're going to see those two connectors that I have there. Those two connectors are running into the speaker wires. Okay, those two connectors are what you need to do to splice into the Bose system, and that's going to give you your signal back to your powered subwoofer. And that's all that you need to do to basically get this hooked up, along with obviously the power, the bass boost wire, and then your negative terminal. But I'm going to try to give you a closer view of the two wires I've tapped into onto the Denali, which should be the same on the Chevy Colorado also. So hold on 1 second. All right, if you look at those two connectors, you can see that one is kind of a gray wire and the other is kind of a brown wire. Now, the way you're going to tell those apart when you splice in and when you cut into this harness here is those two wires will have their own separate kind of coating. It's not really electrical tape, but very similar. And those will be the only two wires with that separate coating when you kind of pull out this harness and you look at it. So that's how you're going to differentiate, and I'm kind of getting as close as I can to give you a view of the colors, but that's how you'll tell. And you know, if you get it wrong, it's not the end of the world. These are posi tap connectors. You can pull them back off. It's not going to wreck the wire. But anyway, that's what you do there. So that's how I tapped into it. And again, those four speaker wires, I've actually wired together. You can see one's the black stripe with the white stripe, and the others are solid going into the other wire. And again, it's kind of hard to see the connection, but I'm going to zoom in one more time for you. Okay, those are those two connections, and that's it. Once you get into those two, you're ready to go. And that's where I chose to tap into those two wires. You could probably do it from any one of your speakers too. I would use your front speakers versus your rear speakers, because usually that's a little, the signal is better. It can be stronger, I think, in the front speakers. But anyway, that's how I did it. And we'll talk about some of the back stuff on the amp now. All right, now we're going to move back to the amp, and you see the channel here where I ran my wiring. This simply goes through this channel and to the rear. I showed you the kind of tool I use. It's that wire tape tool. You can push it through. It's easier to do that for me than pop off this whole panel. So I just pushed it through to the rear. We'll open up the rear. And then back here, we have another panel here, and you can see this is a smaller panel here that is also removed. And I'll go ahead and take that off for you guys. Again, bear with me, I'm doing this one-handed. But you see how simple that was? That it literally pops off. These are pop clips. Now here's how I wired it, and you guys, you know, I don't claim to be an expert on wiring, and this is just how I did it, so bear with me. You need to make sure that when you put this back on, there was plenty of room. This little channel that I ran this through, I decided there was plenty of room for the positive. You can see there's no damage to the wires, so my wiring is good. You don't want to make sure you don't cut into that positive wire, but everything looks good here the way I ran these. So if you want to duplicate that, feel free, but you don't hold me liable for any of your own wiring. But anyway, this is the wiring that's coming through. That's my positive wire. This black wire is that one that ran up to the bass control for the bass on the sub. And then those were those speaker wires that went all the way up to the front that we just talked about and where we tapped into. Now the easiest way for me to do this was to use that wire tape. Again, I ran the wire tape up through here where my finger is. I ran it underneath, and then I had my son put his finger in here and feel for that wire tape, and it took a little while to fish it out with the harness. I pulled the harness through, and then that's where we plugged in, obviously, to the amplifier. And again, this was the bass boost that ran up to the front, to the knob, the control knob, okay? The amplifier is really, there's underneath the seat, when you pull up the seat, you're gonna see a little, it's like a metal bolt directly underneath the amplifier, and it did stick up a little bit. But I just put a piece of foam over that, and there's been no problem as far as setting the amp on it with that little piece of foam. And literally, I've mounted the amp. You can see the 4 screws here. That amplifier comes with those mounts. It's sitting pretty much perfectly in this channel There is no impedance as far as the seat coming down on top of it. Nothing that I've seen that interferes with anything at this point for basically a stock look on the truck. So that's kind of where I was with the install. I told you guys this is pretty simple, and I'm going to kind of reverse it one more time. So again, when you put your harness in, you're probably going to want to install your harness first. So you can start your wiring up at the front. We'll go back up here. You can start your wiring back up here. We're going to tap with those speaker wires into those two with those two posi taps. We ran that wiring down through here, and then we ran it through the channel. We used our wire tape. We pushed that. We ran that wire again back through here, cut across here, used that wire tape to run it through there. We cut a little teeny hole in the carpet right here, pulled our harness out, plugged it into the amplifier, simply screwed the amplifier in here. One caveat, there is a gas tank underneath this. You got to make sure that you're using a shallow screw here and on the other sides. You don't want to use a 2-3 inch screw and obviously drill down into your gas tank. So it's not a big deal. I don't think you're going to use that long a screw anyway, but just know that the gas tank is underneath that area when you get underneath the car. So you need to use a shallow screw to mount the sub. Mine is firmly mounted in there. It's not going anywhere, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. So again, this is not that difficult of a project if you take your time and you can get through this. Please let me know if you have any questions I can answer.